We watched a real stupid movie. We watched a real stupid movie. We watched a real stupid movie. Zeros in a bad film. Turtle power? We watched 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we are in defense of bad movies. Hey everybody, Sam here with another In Defense of Bad Movies episode. Woo! I'm here, joined as always by Lauren.
Cowabunga! Sorry.
And of course, Bobby.
Hey, what's up?
Seems perfect.
Wow, we're a
Spot
mess.
on.
Like, why do we even do this?
We've only been doing this for
About
how many years
15
now?
years, I think.
Yeah, it feels that way. How's it going, guys?
It's good. How are
Pretty
you?
We are every one of us, I think, is well on the way to, if not fully vaccinated.
Woo!
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
I don't believe in the vaccine, so.
Bobby's opinions are not endorsed by In Defense of Bad Movies.
I forgot. Are you fully vaccinated?
I am fully vaccinated.
Cool.
Show
Yeah,
off!
Lauren and I are each one shot in.
Yep, I cried.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, when I was getting, I was like, okay, just relief and something.
I have that sweet, sweet COVID immunity flowing through me.
Lucky. On the 22nd, I will be
Yay!
kind of. What's your date?
The 8th of May.
And then anything goes. We're
You gonna
going.
start licking light poles and
Yeah.
Frenching dogs.
When I cross the street, I'm going to use my tongue to press the little button.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. I don't use that when I cross the street. I jaywalk.
Just that one time.
Exactly. So, we, I'll let me do my reset. This is, of course, In Defense of Bad Movies, the show where we take a movie which is generally regarded as bad, but at least one of us defends it and likes it. And today we are doing 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which has a 40% score from critics.
Now that doesn't sound right.
What if I said
I'm not sure that's enough.
that the audiences gave it a 81% score?
Now that's closer to like more like it.
So you might have guessed from now, Lauren likes the movie.
I mean, it's like family where you can acknowledge where your family does something wrong, but you're still like, but I love it.
But Bobby, you are the one who officially is bringing it to the table.
I am. And I will be upfront because I have torn apart people's nostalgic darlings on this podcast before. That this movie came out when I was like 4 or 5. I was exactly the target audience for it. And it was a beloved movie through all of my childhood, as were the Ninja Turtles as a concept. So yeah. I don't know if there's a way I could ever be completely objective about the Ninja Turtles or about this movie. But
that's totally fair.
That being said, I watched it again, and I still kind of love this movie. It's really fun.
There's a lot that's good about it.
That's nice.
And
for
if you
guys.
are expecting, if you're accepting it on its terms that it's not going to be amazing, it's got a lot going for it.
Yeah, it's got some things going for it. Yeah.
If Tim Burton gets to do his own bananas Batman and have that be a beloved classic, there's no reason this shouldn't be.
It's fair comparison to a 6-year-old property when this was made, comparing it to Batman, which is around since 1938, 39.
I meant
like
specifically Tim Burton. Oh,
no,
I see
know,
what you mean.
but Batman had been around
adaptation.
so long. This was a beloved character, and
But if you're talking about capturing like tone of source material and like a valiant depiction of it, come on, it's great.
You know,
I'll have to take
there is something
You just don't
interesting,
understand.
I think, tonally about this movie. Because the Ninja Turtles, like in the original, like Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird comic, which, I mean, I didn't read as a kid. I read a couple of years ago. It people talk about it like it's this really dark, gritty thing, when I think my read of it is it's kind of like a send-up of like Frank Miller's whole aesthetic.
Right?
And yeah, it's like a one-to-one parody of Daredevil, basically, you know. Like, there's even a shot of, like, the ooze bouncing off of someone's eyes and, like, landing into the
That's funny.
into the sewer. You know, they fight the hand, the turtles fight the foot. But
do you feel like the tone of the comic is tongue-in-cheek, or do you think it...
I think it's unblinking. Like, it feels like Frank Miller. The Ninja Turtles kill people. But yeah, it is gritty, but I think the grittiness is a joke. I mean, I haven't read any interviews with Eastman or anything, so I actually know if that's the goal. But the cartoon that was, like, marketed toward children is very cowabunga, very, like 90s kid commercial. We're gonna scream at you. And I think this movie is kind of interesting because it does kind of create this weird dark world, but the movie itself isn't really dark. It's really goofy. It's definitely for children.
Mandate, or if that was just the creators trying to match, the cartoon that had been out for 2 years a little bit better. It's so compelling that, like, oh, there's the dark and the intense, and then just goofy sound effects.
I think it takes the concept seriously, and I'm being very careful with how I'm saying seriously, because again, this movie's really, really dumb, but, like, it never turns and winks at the camera. Like, it's like, your forming characters are turtles, and you are to take them as seriously as this conceit will, like, let you take them, and I like that about it.
Yeah, we know it's giant turtles. Just stay with us. It'll be fun. Like, no, it's absolutely lovingly embraces the reality.
Do you guys know how much, and I do not know, the Jim Henson Company played a part in this? Because I know they made the puppets. Were they involved with story or anything? Do you know? Because and the reason I ask is because they feel like they do that. They take their puppets very seriously. There is no winking here. There is no... around detachment.
I can give a little bit of
that. Doing, like, a brief glance at Wikipedia right now, I don't think so.
Well, I'm not sure who's on the script, but the director is Steve Barron, who has worked with the Henson Company before, and that was sort of what brought Jim into it. Steve Barron directed some of Storyteller that we've been watching, his really great Jim Henson fairy tale series. So he'd worked with the company, and that's what brought Jim in, even though Jim Henson apparently thought the movie was too violent and didn't like all the gratuitous violence that was unnecessary.
Bless him.
But Brian and his son, Brian Henson, was the second unit director.
Oh,
and
really?
I know, yeah. And so they were certainly very present through the whole process, whether or not they influenced story at all. But I think having someone that came out of their sensibility probably helped that a lot.
Wow, what a great question.
What a great audience.
I think, the idea of doing a full-length movie with, with puppets instead of doing, like, an animated movie or something like that is, like, a crazy idea. Just because I think that's a huge, like, if your puppet suits look bad, this movie doesn't work at all. And I think the puppet suits look really, really great. And I think the production design
do that in but they did proper, martial arts in these suits. And that was incredible.
Because it's a designer that cares about their performers. And, like, that's silly. We're going to have to figure out how to let them move. Not Batman, just turn your whole body. It's fine. Yeah. It's worth it.
You can't turn your neck. That's not a thing bats do.
Yeah, I know a lot of this is, like, editing and choreography, but, like, you really do get the perception of, like, okay, turtles are doing flips over people and, like, are incredibly agile and very nimble, and that's...
Yeah. And I was watching a lot of the fight scenes, like, okay, how sweaty does this look? But they look good. Like, they're actually properly, it's a little stagey, all right, come at me slowly one at a time and I'll be fine. But it looks good.
I bet they had different costumes for the fight
I was
scenes.
thinking about that,
with, like, a lighter head.
Yeah.
Without
just
all the
like
animatronics.
A lighter everything.
The heads are able to emote pretty well, too. Like, they can make angry faces. They can make... They are as nuanced as the script, like, makes the turtles nuanced. Like, but
it wouldn't work in Kramer versus Kramer, but it works really well here.
Please exhibit sanguine ennui. Got it.
Yeah,
but I was surprised by the level of performance that the actors in those suits are able to get.
Not knowing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, not knowing ahead of time that it was Jim Henson, I was all ready to to crap all over these things, and then I'm like, no, I can't do it. These are actually impressive costumes.
good.
And my gosh,
puppets.
it feels so good. Like, considering where we have gone with CGI and having to accept every actor acting off a tennis ball and just deal with the animation. And even in early production for the movie, there was actually talk of doing it more Roger Rabbit style, where, you know, they were acting off of properly animated characters. And okay, that's bananas. But just the relief of them being really on set and how visceral and tactile it looks. And such a big deal for a kid who came out of it. Like, the turtles are real and they're on screen. And that's a huge feeling. And it's so beautiful. And I love practical effects.
Also, these were not Bob Hoskins. You know, you can trust Bob Hoskins
too.
with something like that, but these were nobodies, and that's fine. But
Elias Koteas is not a nobody.
Elias Koteas?
Koteas is not a nobody.
No, he's
Sam
Chris
Rockwell is not a nobody.
No. Sam Rockwell, that was funny. He was little
Sammy Rockwell.
his little peach fuzz mustache and beard.
I'm tough.
But I also think the distinction there is, like, Eddie Valiant is the main character of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Very true.
Bob Hoskins is doing all of the heavy lifting there. And here, Judith Hoag isn't, like, the main character of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She has to do some of the dramatic lifting, but, like, the Ninja Turtles, I think, are solidly, like, the anchoring point here. Like, they are the main characters. We meet them before we meet April.
Yeah.
We stay with them. So it's like these puppets are actually carrying the narrative and dramatic weight of the movie. Again, it's not necessarily a very heavy weight to carry, but they are. It's them.
Come on, they're teenagers. It's a story of self-discovery. It's huge for them. This is the first time they've had to stand up on their own when their master father, Splinter, gets kidnapped, and they've got to, like, figure out who they are as people before they have to go fight evil.
It's really great.
It's huge.
Also,
It's huge.
Master Splinter tells his entire life story to everyone he meets.
Sit down. I'm going to tell you something.
He was another great
No, it's
costume.
okay,
That,
it's okay.
yeah, having a visceral, person in a costume, in a really cool costume, playing Splinter is so much better than a CGI thing.
Especially since Splinter is in peril, and you care for Splinter because you see this little rat thing get, like, strung up, and you're like, no, I can see him. I can relate with him.
Right.
You know,
He's a lovable furry Henson Muppet. I am conditioned to love them all.
There's dimension and weight to this character. Yeah.
And Kevin Clash doing his fake Japanese
we
accent.
don't talk about that.
It's very uncomfortable. I was debating.
For a couple of reasons, we don't talk about that.
That and the homophobia.
Oh,
was
that
problematic.
part's
Oh, no.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
We're not happy about that, obviously.
They-
For a
they-
90s movie, I guess it was toned down from what it sometimes is, but it's also a kids' movie. We don't need it.
Yeah, we just leave that stuff out.
Also, we're decent people. We don't need it.
Exactly. Ugh.
There's a weird the Japanese stuff is real weird
Yeah.
in this movie.
What are you talking about? Yes, indeed.
I mean, like, yes, the very clear thing that's weird is you have Kevin Clash doing a hysterically over-the-top Japanese accent, and then halfway through the movie, you have a foot soldier doing, honestly, the worst Japanese accent I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, these guys they don't even need to be, like, Asian. What?
Yeah, we know he's recruited people for this this absurdly detailed crime spree he's got going.
That's all
Like,
based
that
on.
scene, it almost feels like he did a take with his, like, Native American, his native space American accent. But, like, and then the director was just like, hey, do it one more time as a Japanese, like, with a Japanese accent. He's, what's a Japanese accent? You just replace the L's with R's. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, it could not
Okay, got it.
It could not have been more a white guy.
and then, yeah. there's a lot of, like April O'Neil just constantly going, like, I've spoken to many Japanese Americans who say
Over the last
that
couple days.
decades ago in Japan.
Well, what are you going to do? It's before the internet. How's she's going to fact check that? This ancient Japanese martial art group.
I love my news to be just anecdotal. Just no facts, no anything, just
over
anecdotes.
The past few days has she had these interviews. I love it.
April's relationship with her editor is so weird, and I can't put a finger on it, and I kind of love it that they're just like way over involved in each other's lives.
Why does he come to her apartment in the village to talk to her? This is an office conversation. Take your child to school and then come talk to me.
It is a weird
And then
choice.
she's always like, here's my delinquent son who won't go to school and is clearly like mixed in with the wrong crowd. And then like April's like just way overly familiar relationship with the son. Just like tell your father not to be such an asshole. And it's like he's having disciplinary problems with this kid.
Yeah. I was going to another thing that I was totally going to make fun of at the beginning is the absurd complicated thing where somebody picks a pocket and then it has to go through like 15 different handoffs before they finally give it to the bad guy. And it was especially when the kid picked the pocket, he had gotten away with it. He could do whatever he wanted at that point.
Well, it's that kind of lackadaisical thinking. This means you're never going to be the head of a whole criminal syndicate.
But finding the tone of the movie, I'm like, okay, I get it now. I'm in okay hands.
I am in love with like the broad way that the foot like operates. Like the criminal syndicate is so funny. That it's just like I love the like you like you're saying the overly intricate like criming, but also that's like when I like revisited the movie, I'm like there's going to be something really problematic here. I think it's pretty colorblind as far as like the criminals, like it's not it doesn't fall into like kind of like the ethnic tropes that a lot of early 90s shit does when it comes to street level crime. But also I love that it's like we just steal stuff so we can hang out and skateboard and smoke cigarettes because our parents just don't understand. It's like it's so funny.
Because there's a Fagin level hideaway of like these little, unloved children coming and doing our secret street bidding. But then there must be higher levels of far more, mafia like control. But we never really see that. It's all just teenage thugs. And some really intense martial art training.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. The mafia stuff is a secret karate cult or ninja cult.
All to steal small consumer goods.
Yeah.
And do what with them? Are they reselling them? Who
I
knows?
suppose.
Melting them down for profit?
It's just real the broad strokes of crime. Like, you don't need to know. It's kids. They'll get it. Like, crime happened. Here go crime.
What were some of the things they were doing on that Pleasure Island thing? You said like
skateboarding, smoking a cigar and playing pool.
Smoking, because things that 90s kids are totally into.
Playing stand-up video games that they stole.
As a
rapping.
kid in the 90s watching this movie, I remember like looking at that and like two things thinking like this looks fun. Like I would have fun here, but also just like all the early 90s like crime propaganda shit. I'm like, this is the allure of gangs that they're talking about. I don't want to be in a gang.
They're going to offer me drugs. I have to say no. That's so sweet.
I like Raph's frustrated kung fu. When he just goes up on the roof and starts doing
angry.
We're gonna give you...
high kick.
I had written like ninja flash dance. Or not flash dance, Footloose.
Too much feeling. He's got to let it out. He's a firebrand. That's what's great about Raph in the books in this movie. He's just, he's got so much frustration. He's got to let it out.
How many times Raph says damn at the beginning?
I was going to make a comment about that too.
It's the one curse word we're allowed. That's the gritty side of the movie.
That's how you know he's the bad boy of the group.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
There's a music cue when he's fighting Casey Jones where that just sounds straight up like Orinoco Flow. Like it sounds like Sail Away. You know what I'm talking about? Like when they're fighting, the song gets a little quirky, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is Sail Away, Sail Away, Sail Away.
Well, Orinoco Flow did the soundtrack for the movie.
Oh, okay.
That's
that
not accurate.
No.
I want to be true.
She's a liar.
That's really
I
another
didn't
level
realize
of tone.
I didn't realize until just now, looking down at the Wikipedia page, that Corey Feldman is Donatello. That's amazing.
He was probably the best one, the best actor among them.
That's fair. We debate on this. I think Michelangelo captures the tone perfectly. But yeah, Corey Feldman has a naturalness.
Yeah, I mean, he's an actor.
I mean, he doesn't feel like our brainy dude. They don't really let Donatello invent anything, which obviously is a flaw, but that's fine.
What is his? He does machines?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to just minimize him, sure.
I mean, that's what the theme song says. I'm going to skip a little bit to the end giving a little backstory, Splinter turned out to be this rat who lived in a cage where the bad guy, Shredder, did some things with the people who lived there.
Gosh, okay, all right.
Hamato
Yoshi and Oroku Saki were both prominent martial artists in Japan. They were obviously terrible rivals, and Oroku Saki was very jealous of Hamato Yoshi, particularly because he had the love of his beautiful wife. And so Saki stepped out against Hamato Yoshi, and so they had to flee to Japan, so they had to flee to America, and he followed them, and he killed his wife, and he killed him and his beloved rat that lived in a cage, and followed all his martial art practices and learned from him.
That was an adorable puppet.
Scratched Shredder's face and gave him some horrible scars, and
I believe that's exactly what I said. If you play the tape back,
but you were not you weren't respecting it.
Oh, okay. Well, at the end of the movie, when Shredder finds out that this rat is that rat that scratched up his face, he's pissed off, but he takes it in stride that rat is still around and has become this human-sized figure.
He's like, yeah, that checks out. I knew it was you.
I mean, granted, he just fought 4 humanoid turtles, so maybe he's ready for these kind of surprises. But yeah, it felt like, good for you.
I will admit, I have always been bothered by this part because I never read the comic. I'd only watched cartoon and other versions. So I was aware of the other origin story and was always bothered by why this movie changed it. And then I found out that, it was because this was the original comic origin for Splinter. And I don't like it.
I think it's adorable.
He was the cutest little rat puppet, obviously. But I much prefer the cartoon version where Splinter is Hamato Yoshi, and that when he picked up the turtles after they'd been covered in the mutagen, he mutated himself. So he is a former human who experienced all of this trauma and betrayal himself, then is now trapped in this rat body. I think that's so much better and more dramatic.
But then the powers of the ooze are inconsistent there. Like, what is the ooze? Like, if it takes animals and makes them humanoid, then we can say that's the power. This is important. We need to be very consistent on what the magical goop does.
Oh, I'll happily respond to that, Bobby. The magical goop will mutate 2 beings that are in
before
contact.
We get into this.
So a human touched the turtles, so the turtles take on human attributes. And then because Yoshi had been in the sewers touching rats, he had interacted with rats, and he became a rat man. Spotless.
I was going to say before we get too into this, are you just going to reveal the secret of the ooze? It is a secret.
I'm
just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
No, we should watch that one next because that one's a banger.
You know what's interesting?
Vanilla Ice is in that one.
The Ninja Turtles were like everything to me as a kid, and I wore my VHS copy of this movie like totally out. I have never seen the second or third Ninja Turtle movie.
What?
Yeah.
Bobby, you're going to be so jealous to know that I won tickets to a special premiere of the movie, so I got to see secret reviews early. It was a really big deal. That makes me so sad. Okay, so in my mind, Secret of the Ooze is the Empire Strikes Back, even far superior sequel. Does that bear out today? Probably not, but you should still totally watch it. And then somehow the third one was one I didn't make it to until much later.
You grew out of?
Maybe that was just a timing thing. Bobby, who was your turtle?
Oh, Michelangelo. I mean, I'm more of a Donatello, I think, but Michelangelo was the coolest.
Who's the one that you love? That's not strictly,
I wanted nunchucks. I wanted to be the fun one who ate pizza and partied all the time.
See, based on
you grew up to be that person too.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Michelangelo.
Yeah, you party all the time. We were trying to get you to stop partying during COVID. You said no. No, I will never stop partying.
Gotta party.
Based on the cartoon series, I was 100% a Raphael because he was sarcastic and funny and he was my favorite. And then based on the movies, yeah, he's the angry bad boy that just needs someone to tame him. 100% Lauren's go-to. He is the best in every iteration.
Is that who you are, though? Like, which Ninja Turtle are you?
No, I meant more who was your guy. In real life, I'm probably a Leonardo, and I don't mean that in a good way. You know,
I mean, the leader who has his shit together.
But I probably mean it in the way where, like, he's not a very good leader, and, like, he's just trying to grasp at control, and everything keeps, like, spiraling away from him, and he's kind of boring.
The boring one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the boring one.
I would disagree with that.
Leonardo's not the boring one. I know you.
Oh, I don't know. I don't care about that. I would say you are not the boring one.
You're so sweet.
You are not boring.
But I mean, as far as, like, I'm certainly not a party dude. I'm not very cool but rude.
And you're not good with, what was it, doing machines?
Okay, I need to look up the lyrics because I'm forgetting what Donatello's thing is.
I thought it was that he does machines.
Talk amongst yourselves while I Google.
So, I'm pretty much
convinced that this is a great movie. You're right.
I'm pretty much out of notes.
No, it's so great.
Is what I was going to say. I was
right.
disappointed. I never heard that joke that I thought it was in this movie, but it was apparently in the next one, the Little Giraffe.
Yeah, it's the next movie.
Oh.
Sean Diston set you up so much for a great joke in Secret of the Ooze that we won't spoil for you, Bobby, but it's obviously comedic gold.
By the way, we are a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast now. We're gonna do the whole series.
I joked around a lot with Sam before this about the name of the movie because there are many Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films, and Sam tried to shorten it to TMNT, and I wouldn't let him because in the mid 2000s there was an animated film called TMNT, which I don't think I have watched since theaters, but it is a canonical sequel to the live action 90s movies, and I remember enjoying it quite a bit.
I did too.
In my defense, I don't care.
No, it was fun. Like, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely a big nostalgic, warm hug of, like, it's the Turtles. Look at them having an adventure. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Michael Bay came along and shit all over everything.
You know, and then I watched the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was still pretty fun.
But isn't it a paltry amount of turtle?
No, the turtles are all over that movie, but also I don't like the way the turtles look.
They're big, scary monsters.
That is true.
And I think like the primary color, I mean, like the bright colors of their masks are like really important. Like I think it's easier to differentiate them from that than to make them physically kind of different, which is what I think the Michael Bay ones try to do. And at the end, you're just kind of staring at these big like reptilian things, going like, "Wait, which one is that? Oh, it's Donatello. He has goggles. Okay."
It sounds a lot like the Transformers movies too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just like I don't know, some big robot fighting another big robot. I can't tell who's who.
Give them colors.
Would you say that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is to Michael Bay as the Justice League is to Zack Snyder?
No, because I don't think Michael Bay gives a shit.
No, I was going to say exactly that. Like, I feel like Zack cares, even though I hate that he cares because he ruins it.
Honestly, and if we're being honest, the Michael Bay's Ninja Turtle, I don't know if he actually, did he direct the Ninja Turtles? Whatever. Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles is definitely a more competently and efficiently told story than Zack Snyder's Justice League. But I think I'd rather watch the 4-hour superhero slog than revisit Michael Bay's boring but competent Ninja Turtles movie.
Interesting.
You'd watch
because you had just said it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of. It is kind of fun. It's just like it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Why I have it's not a Michael Bay podcast, obviously, but just I'm so curious about the production process that brought Michael Bay. Like, what mandated a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie at that time? Why Michael Bay, who feels like he would not give a shit about these things? Like, I don't know. Sure, what do kids care about? All right, throw it up on there. Put Megan Fox in it. We're done.
Get a lot of close-ups on asses. Kids love that.
Going back to the Splinter's origin story. Like, the movie treats it deadly serious, which, again, I think is a good thing. And, I mean, it gets to a point where we see, you know, an adorable puppet rat attack, like, a murderous martial artist and, like, get cut down. And you kind of follow along with all the emotion of that. But also, like, that feels like it should have been sprinkled throughout the movie a little more. Like, the personal tie between Splinter and Shredder is like kind of a big deal, and we get it in two pretty small dumps, like one at the beginning and then one at the end, where it doesn't even matter, they're gonna fight each other anyway, you know.
I think they're just going for that surprise. But yeah,
poor Danny just has to hang out in the basement and hear this old rat's stories about his life. Like, no, it's great, yeah, cool, I kind of got my own stuff going on, but sure, whatever.
It's funny when he tells April his story at the beginning. I was like, I remember like a whole sequence went along with this, like a black and white thing where we saw the whole thing unfold, and then I'm like, oh, I guess I imagined it. And then when he says it to Danny at the end, I'm like, twice? We get this twice? Like,
they really want you to know that. They really want that information hammered in.
I wonder who this villain could be.
Makes sense if it's your personal tragedy. My wife was killed. I used to be a human. Just, I was a rat with like a rat brain and apparently wicked martial arts skills.
I'm going to say for a kids movie, I kind of like that distance a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's so cute and so noble that Splinter is a rat who's just so worked up over his like owner's defeat. Yeah. Like the idea of this little cute animal going like, I will avenge my master one day. I mean, which is why that's so compelling. I think that should be sprinkled throughout the movie a little more.
It works in a kids movie in a world of, you know, Stuart Little and Secret of Nim, and just the understanding that, yes, of course rodents have these, you know, high intelligences and capabilities even before interacting with mutagenetic slime.
I like that he learned everything he knew about martial arts from this guy, so it was like his master, and so yeah, he's got to avenge his master. It's too bad that the happy couple had to get killed, but you know.
But Splinter's the best.
I love that.
Even when voiced by Notorious. Anyway.
Wait, who voices him?
Kevin Clash.
Who is Kevin Clash?
He played Elmo as well.
Yeah.
Splinter's still great.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I know. I don't know how he did all of those martial arts when he was handled by 3 puppeteers.
Was he?
Yeah.
I thought he was just somebody in a costume.
No,
but
he's
he was
a puppet. He's a
well,
full puppet.
That's amazing.
Where would you fit a person?
Yeah, he's pretty small.
No, fair.
Yeah, I guess.
Since
it was a small.
He's stationary most of the time. He's got someone manipulating his arms. He's got the radio controls on his face, and then he's got head control.
I thought it was a 16-year-old Doug Jones.
Fair. That's a good point. Oh yeah, he's in this. He's the 7-foot tall, skinny dude in the back.
That's why
I was wondering when he was doing that.
That's why I had him at 16 years old.
No, he's still 7 foot tall. I shrunk him.
I love that by nature of their weapons. Leo and Raph basically just have their weapons for intimidation and show, like when they're fighting people, because you're not going to have those guys stabbing.
There was one funny thing where Raph, I guess, has to knock out a light with his sai, and that was the most clumsily thrown sai I've ever seen.
It's really funny.
It's like, oh, I guess we just had just the one bulb. We had one take, and there it is.
I don't know how to throw sai. Okay, it's good enough.
It looks like they threw it sideways. Like, I don't know. It was very silly.
The director yelled cut and then went, damn!
Damn.
Damn, Donatello. Is that funny? Is that funny?
Is that something?
Is that something?
Is that a t-shirt?
Damn, Donatello.
Is that a shirt? Put it on a shirt.
So there's a case to make in a lot of movies, or just in any narrative whatsoever, that you don't want to lean too hard into the era because it'll age your movie or your book or whatever, your TV show. I think the fact that the Ninja Turtles leaned so hard into the 90s actually makes it age better. Because I think this just functions as like a very, it's a relic of that era.
You can accept it on its terms because, like, well, this is clearly just what the 90s were.
There was so
Very
many.
well.
There were so many. The way the story was told was so very 90s that I think you're right. If they tried to make the time universal, the tone would have still been so 90s that you might as well just make it a time capsule.
Like so much so, and this is not me just like asking to be pandered to. If we were to reboot the Ninja Turtles for film again for the dozenth time, I would think the smart thing to do would be to set it in the 90s, just because they make so much sense there, you know?
Yeah, especially if they are saying all those catchphrases. And then you wouldn't have to worry about cell phones. Done and dusted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The world is so much smaller. The 90s may have been the last window where you could have giant humanoid turtles living in the sewers and no one's really aware of it. No one's gotten a picture
BuzzFeed
on their
articles.
phone. Yeah, it's just sort of a whispered, myth.
You might be onto something. I like it.
I'm just saying, cell phones and internet have ruined everything.
You're
right.
This is a very brief tangent. I've been watching old episodes of The Real World recently, and watching everyone fight over the phone is like so funny. And I'm like, that's a thing no one does anymore. No one, and everyone has their own phone.
That's funny.
So that was like funny to go back to a time.
Those are funny. Is it a portable phone at least, or is it like
No.
landline?
Landline.
You have to have your conversation in front of everybody. Could you get out of here? I'm on the phone. Oh, it was awful. Remember those days?
Unfondly.
I hate talking on the phone now when it's the most convenient thing in the world and I can do whatever I want during it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, though? I think I used to talk on the phone a lot when I was a kid. And
Well, you're very popular.
No, just had my nerd friends. But I don't like doing it now. And I have a theory that, Lauren, I've told you about this theory, that it was pretty much instantaneous. There was no delay when you were talking to somebody on a landline, but now there is this fraction of a second delay that it messes with our cadences, and so it just makes it uncomfortable to talk to each other. That's my theory.
It's a good theory.
boring.
I'm going to counter with, I don't like talking on the phone. There's a lot of shit on TV. I got stuff to do.
And that's totally fair, too. That it could be just that I changed. By the way, we've got a cat up here. So
Studio
if you hear meowing or...
Oh, see, I thought that was Sam's tail that was coming in his screen.
It was earlier. So do we have anything else to say about the movie before we get to final verdicts?
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say is Casey Jones is really fun, and I like Casey Jones, and I also feel like you could take a pair of scissors and cut him right out of that movie.
But then
Like,
who
I
will
don't-
April be in love with?
I feel like that's the only reason he's there, is to give April someone to kiss at the end.
I like Elias Koteas too, and I'm glad he gets a paycheck for that.
Yeah.
It's a world filled with colorful characters. I appreciate he's fun, let's have him in. You're right. It's not essential.
He looked like he was vying for a Bill Pullman type career with this role. Like I could totally see Bill Pullman doing this.
I love that you say that because it makes no sense to me. Like I see a bit of the facial features and like the bad boy quality that's similar to Spaceballs Bill Pullman, but just in straight visuals, if you say Bill Pullman, I'm like, no, not Casey Jones.
Obviously, in straight visuals, he's Chris Maloney with a long wig.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Lone Star.
With a what?
With a little bit of Lone Star. Spaceballs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Um,
Anywho.
I can't not see the Chris Maloney thing now. I love Casey Jones's moment at the end where he's like in peril. And it's like, oh no, this guy's too good at fighting. And then he gets knocked on the door and like all it takes is a golf club. And he's like, yes, a sport blunt object.
Earlier in the movie, when he first showed up, I said, who is he, Sportsmaster? Who is a DC villain? And Lauren's all, yeah, pretty much Sportsmaster. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair.
He did not disappoint.
Yeah. It's like, are you watching Invincible?
I have watched the first 20 minutes of the first episode, and that is it.
You
But I read the comic book also.
Okay. You know how every character has a usually DC universe counterpart. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can work with that. But
It's funny. The Ninja Turtles are like in the DC realm now, though, right? Aren't they? Or is it just DC publishes their comic books or something? Like the Ninja Turtles have been Batman before.
Right.
They're in
That
the
might have
Injustice games.
Interesting.
Which is funny when they were based on a Marvel spoof. Like,
Yeah.
That's, it's interesting.
So anything else we have to say? I've got this cat is really becoming a pain in the ass, so I might try to move things along a bit.
No, I think we're good. It's the greatest movie of all time. So
We all agree. Good.
So
Perfect. Moving on.
Lauren, you like the movie?
I cannot not like the movie.
Yeah.
It's, high art, maybe not, but it's just so fun. And especially for youths, and I don't mean that in the dismissive way of like, oh, kids will like anything, but like it's fun and transgressive, and it's a little bit dark, but then it's also got complete silly moments and just bits of joy in it. Like, I think it's great.
How about you, Bobby? Obviously, you brought this to the table, so
yeah, I mean, like, I'll acknowledge that the script is pretty dumb. I don't think it's like terrible or anything, but it's a dumb movie. But I can't get over how big of a swing like the production was, and how so much of this could have gone wrong visually, and it's really fun to watch, and it's pretty short also, which is always good.
That is a nice trim hour and a half. I love it. I saved myself for last because I was, I think, the only one who was questionable. And I did not love this movie. But I think all of my reasons for not loving it is because it's not even a 90s movie. It's a 1990 movie. So that's like late 80s, early 90s kids movie that I did not see as a kid. So I just think I was never going to... It's not up my alley. It's not for me. Sure. Having said that, there were things that I chuckled at. Like I said, I was really impressed with the costumes and the puppetry. I mean, it's Jim Henson, so that goes without saying. But yeah, other than that, if you grew up with this and if you like it, I cannot fault you. There are certainly worse things out there. So, Lauren, I think that. So I think that's like a half recommendation. Okay, I'm halfway on your side. Now let's do IDOBM presents IMDb Trivia TM.
So going to the IMDb Trivia, which we all know is comprehensive and never wrong, but it was interesting. I really want to do the detailed backstory on this movie. I would love to know about the production process and how it all worked out.
You would like to know how it got made.
I really would, but
how did this get made?
But really in depth, not just comedians joking about it and June,
fair.
Diane Raphael not understanding it at all. But I want to know the whole process because it was really interesting, and trivia gave a lot of bits of insight that I want to delve into more. Like they'd started developing the film back in the 80s with the idea that it would be based entirely on the comics, and the whole arc of the story is pulled directly from the comics pretty much, with the kidnapping of Splinter, going to the country, coming back, and the final defeat. Like it was more or less the comics, but they just could not get it produced. No one wanted to do it. They shopped it around to all these different companies, and no one thought it was going to be viable because this was a time when Batman was a weird outlier and no one else thought that comic book movies could possibly be successful.
Weird.
But so they finally got New Line Cinema to pick it up, and it became the highest grossing independent film until Blair Witch Project in 1999.
What? Wow.
They made $135 million domestic and $66 million foreign box office.
Do you know the budget?
No.
Okay.
Because that was not incled in IMDb Trivia.
Making $200 million total box office. I can't imagine the budget was that big.
With all the radio puppet faces?
Yeah.
Well, now I should do that research. I should have that ready to go. I feel ashamed.
No,
the budget was $13.5 million.
Wow. So that's
okay. That's and that was an independent movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
in the 90s. That's a chunk, but
yeah.
I'm so pleased they made it all back, and
and then some.
Yeah. And it facilitated 2 fast sequels. So we discussed Jim Henson being the brilliant mind behind all the designs. But the costumes are just amazing, but obviously were probably really heavy and difficult. So according to this bit of trivia, to help disguise how cumbersome and slow the costumes were, dialogue scenes were actually shot at 23 frames per second. So when they were played back at normal 24 frames per second, they looked a little bit better, a little faster and crisper.
Just that 1/24th of a second
Apparently.
difference? Wow,
yeah.
Interesting.
And the fight scenes were shot at 22 or 23 frames per second as well. But again, not too much of a drag, but just enough to... Because they didn't speed it up to Japanese action style. Like, it didn't look impossibly fast.
You can always tell when it is sped up too much. So, that's impressive.
Yeah. But the lip movements are still insane. Like, just the radio controls on the faces are so incredibly impressive. Yeah. But that does lead into another bit of trivia. So they shot most of the film in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they were actually shooting next to an airport, which presented problems with the radio controls on the faces because they'd get signals from the control tower, which would cause facial expressions to go into involuntary spasms.
Oh, I want to see these outtakes.
I do not. That will terrify me. It's like when you see Kermit without a hand inside of him and he's just a lifeless shell. It's so sad.
Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, who'd you think I meant?
My old neighbor Kermit when I lived in Cerritos.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Touche. And going into a lot of the other trivia, I just really want to hear the process because apparently there was a big tough time with director Steve Barron leaning toward making the film darker than the studio wanted, and he was eventually fired off the shot. He was fired off the production and replaced, and apparently because the studio thought he was taking things too dark, which is when we get into a movie I want to see, that's compelling. And I want to know, because it's got, like we discussed, the confluence of the tone issues, where there's the big cartoony stuff as well. Like, was that in there already, or did that all get put in reshoots? So interesting.
You know what? And I should have talked about this earlier. I did not love the voice acting for most of the wisecracks that the Turtles made. I thought that was not very well done, and I think that could have been better.
You think it was the voice acting and not you just didn't like the jokes?
Yeah, I do. Like, I don't remember whoever was doing like that New York. I guess they're all doing New York ones, but I think it was Raph.
Raph is doing the most.
Raph's doing the most New York, and like, I didn't love it. Anyway, sorry to butt in with that.
No, that's fair. I don't think I want them to cut the wisecracking. Maybe just make it a little bit better, because that's part of it. They're teenagers. They're having fun. They're kids.
That's cool. I mean, it works with Spider-Man.
Exactly. So if they just had Spider-Man level writers on this.
Stan Lee and... yeah.
Imagine if Spider-Man had 3 other Spider-Mans he could joke with.
In the 90s, they did a whole clone story.
And how funny was that?
It was hilarious.
See.
Yeah, can I add something really quick?
Go for it.
I know this is breaking tradition. I just read this right now and it blew my mind. The UK and German version of this movie was heavily they removed like Eastern fighting weapons and references to ninjas in this movie.
Huh. In England, sorry, go ahead.
And the weapon that they concealed in the edit was Michelangelo's nunchucks. Yeah. Of all the weapons.
I know, right? We did a little bit of research on this when we were doing the theme cycle times for the song. But yeah, at the time, England was having a real issue specifically with nunchucks, but with, people using these weird random martial arts. And so, like, they cut the word ninja out of the title. And yeah, you couldn't show the nunchucks because they were a particular weapon of concern at the time. Swords and knives, just fine.
Fine, totally fine.
Because we're British, you can't not have a sword.
Yeah, you can run a guy through, but don't club him.
But ninjas, ooh.
Well, with the very little information that I've received from you, I'm gonna just assume that was very racist.
Wait, what?
England's choice, or?
Oh. Yeah, no, England's choice.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, I see.
How weird that these exoticized Eastern weapons are what we're really having a hard time with. Do you mean Eastern people? England, not me.
Oh, yeah. Now let's talk about the movie we wish we'd seen.
Ugh, this movie is crap. I could write a better movie in my sleep.
And now, IDOBM presents the movie we'd wish we'd seen.
That's where we take a component of the movie and make a sequel, prequel, give a character their own movie, something to that effect. We've done this before. We know how it's done. I'll go first. I want to see the one where who was the guy who trained Splinter?
Hamato Yoshi.
where he has a whole dojo full of rats that he just trains. Where he somehow survives the attack, but the splinter still attacks his face. So yeah, he then lives a life where he just trains rats.
It's Ratatouille, but with
arts.
ninjas.
It's Ratatouille,
and
with
it's also
ninjas.
Willard, but with ninjas.
Yeah. So that's the movie I want to see. I love it. Who wants to go next? I know I always feel bad assigning someone because this is when I know people forget to prepare for. So, Bobby.
I think the appeal of the Ninja Turtles is you get all four of them as a team. That being said, I wouldn't mind like a very, very 90s aesthetic street hockey movie starring Michelangelo, where he decides to get into street hockey, and it's just like a very kind of like ridiculous 90s street hockey movie starring Michelangelo.
I like it. In fact, you could each of them gets their own movie.
Yeah, and then they all come together at the end, like the Avengers.
Exactly. That's phase one.
That sounds amazing.
And maybe even like Casey Jones gets his own movie, and Cowboy Bebop, and Rocksteady, the video game company.
Oh no! I thought you had it, but you lost it.
Okay. Yeah, I am not well versed on the Mutantiverse. I don't know.
That could work.
Do they ever show up in the other two movies, Rocksteady and Bebop?
They do not. There is in Secret of the Ooze. Spoiler alert. They're certainly not Bebop and Rocksteady because I feel like they are problematic figures now, but there's like other villainous mutants are created that are sort of the two big hulking scary ones in Secret of the Ooze, but they're certainly not Bebop and Rocksteady.
Why are they problematic?
Bebop and Rocksteady are 100% in Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles movie.
I understand that to be the case. I have not seen the depiction, like I haven't even seen visuals of them, and I'm a little afraid. Who played them, do you know?
I don't remember.
I'm sure it was with all of the grace and sensitivity that one Transformer was portrayed.
So tell me what the deal is with these two. Why is it problematic?
They're coded very black.
They're coded very black and very cool street guys.
Yeah.
And like, oh guys, that's not cool. That was never cool.
Okay. Say no more. Lauren.
Hi.
Why don't you tell us about the movie you wish you'd seen?
Oh man, I'm never good at this.
It doesn't have to be. Like you could, if you want to say that you liked it just the way it is and that's all you've got, that's...
I want a Krang puppet. I want a Krang puppet.
Krang?
I want them to incorporate the whole storyline with Dimension X and the Technodrome, and I want there to be a big robot with a Krang in his stomach that's fully articulated and slimy and gross. I want a Krang puppet.
You are speaking words that do not make any sense.
And they can... So Dimension X is kind of like Apocalypse. And if Darkseid had a smart-mouthed brain creature in his stomach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what was the name of the guy from Total Recall that had the...
It's not quite Quado.
Yeah.
So he's a brain alien that created a robot that he could, sit in the stomach of and would control. And so the robot, moves him about and manipulates things for him.
Just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
No, it's really a big deal. You would love this movie. You would love this movie.
Okay.
We should have Baxter Stockman in it.
Should have what?
We should have Baxter Stockman in it. He was initially going to be included in an early draft of the script, and they cut him.
Okay.
He's a villain. He's great. He's a fly person.
Keep going, Lauren. Keep going.
Okay.
Let's close the door on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the time being, and let's just talk about things that need no defense. That's just anything else we might be into right now that just doesn't even need to be defended because everyone knows it's great, but we like to share anyway. Bobby, do you have anything?
Yeah. So, on the Mistress podcast, I had recommended Bon Appetit's YouTube channel, which fell apart literally the day I recommended it because of pay equity issues and just like shitty workplace culture. And so the last time we did this podcast, I recommended Reply All's story on that And like I think literally the day after after we recorded this, Reply All kind of fell apart because of issues about pay equity and unionizing and shitty workplace culture. So no more of that.
How sad.
So I'm going to recommend a very unproblematic, I hope,
Oh gosh.
knock
Matt
on
Gaetz.
wood, cooking podcast called Home Cooking with Samin Nosrat and Rishikesh Hirway.
Was that the one where they got caught? No, I don't have anything.
Fuck. No, they are both just really charming and mellow, cool people. And the premise of their podcast, which I believe has wrapped, is it's COVID-19 times. People are just trying to cook with what they have in their pantries. And Samin is there to give people advice on, just like easy cooking habits.
That sounds good.
And it is really good. They have really kind of like interesting guests. Like they have Yo-Yo Ma as a guest in one episode. Oh, wow. They have Nadia from the Great British Bake Off in one episode. It's great. It's just a really chill, nice podcast, and I can't recommend it enough.
And Rishi brings in a song that he dissects while they're cooking.
I wish. No.
So how about you, Lauren? What are you up to these days?
Well, now this is a problem because we are consuming so much of the same media nowadays that we actually have to do like a pre-game. What are you going to recommend? I don't know. What are you going to recommend? So Sam, what are you going to recommend?
Not that. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We are the latest to the game, but Sam and I have watched Ted Lasso
Damn
on
it, that's
Apple
what I was
TV.
gonna recommend.
Son of a bitch!
No.
And gosh, we cannot possibly recommend it more. After months and months of like, why is everyone talking about Ted Lasso? What's this Ted Lasso? Man, I don't want to get another subscription service, but do it for the month that you watch Ted Lasso. It's such
Not even a month. Do the 7-day free trial.
Sure. Yeah. Really, I mean,
It goes down really easy.
Yeah. Oh, it's so lovely and wonderful and funny and just a show about a genuinely good, optimistic person. And it was really the balm for COVID times. And the reminder that, like, yeah, I'm done with your damn anti-heroes. It's so nice to see a good person trying to be good.
Yeah, I will agree. I love that show. I think it was a perfect first season of a TV show.
Yeah.
And
very funny. Not just,
it is very funny.
It's Capra-esque meets, really contemporary comedic sensibilities, like nerdy jokes, and it's beautiful.
And I'm reminded anytime I've really gotten into a TV show where you kind of want to live in that world. Like when I was really into Seinfeld, I kind of wanted to be a nihilistic jerk about other people. Yeah, so basically Seinfeld made me want to be a bad person. This show makes me want to be a good person. It makes me want to take Ted Lasso's his lessons to heart and be, if there's somebody I disagree with or just they're doing something I don't like, I want to be curious about them rather than just writing them off.
And Ted Lasso himself is like a very unflappable character, but he's interesting too. Like there's a lot to him. And there's some
depth,
there's some episodes or some characters who kind of like try his worldview a little bit in interesting ways, and he gets kind of called out late in the series by his what's his name, his assistant who's amazing, Beard. Oh, I love Beard so much.
Yeah, he's great. UCB guy.
Yeah, but yeah, Ted Lasso is so good.
Yeah. So I will echo that. But what I'm going to recommend is a show that we kind of just started watching it as like, we don't watch enough comedies. There's a few people in this, and even if it's a real light, something we're not totally into, we'll see how it goes. Superstore, which I am liking it a lot more than I expected it to like. I mean, it's not a Seinfeld or it's not like a real must-see TV type show, but like if you've ever worked retail, there's a lot of things that hit close to home with that. And it's a fun show that I think has been a little bit overlooked. I know it just ended too recently. So talk about being late to the game about something. But
isn't it kind of nice knowing that they had their run? Like they had a really respectable run of several years. And so it can sort of feel like you can watch a show even guilt-free of like, oh, I like the show, but I just don't think it's gonna get renewed. Like, you don't have to worry about its fate because it's all wrapped up, and you know it's gonna be okay. You know it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, that is very true. So that's mine.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's a really pleasant show, and it's perfect for the streaming world of like, I just want to have a nice half hour, and it's a really strong ensemble cast.
Oh yeah. And the ensemble cast is great. It's got Mark McKinney.
Mm-hmm. He's glorious.
That's his name. Yeah, he's fantastic in that. It's just,
and they'll just grow with you. It's a real example of like, I've just over time come to really care about the characters.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of office-y without the big office splash.
Or angst. It doesn't make the highs, but like you don't have to deal with the horrible discomfort of the office.
That is very true.
It's just nice.
It's nice.
I've wanted to watch that show, and
it's fun.
I'm glad to hear that you like it. I'm more likely to watch it.
Yeah, and like take the commitment to know that it's going to be a slow ramp up, and you know, give it enough time of like, if you don't like it after half a season, more than just a couple episodes.
Yeah, because it took us some time to get to this point. All right. Well, those are all the major segments we have on the show, except for a little thing I call plugs. And there's not a plug theme song, unlike the thing that I'm ripping off my tonality from. So I'll go. So Sam Sleuth is still on YouTube. I would love it if you would check it out. Sam Sleuth, Stereotypical Noir Detective. There are 4 episodes. We are finally getting around to shooting episode 5.
After our winter hiatus.
Yeah, you know how shows do that now.
Yeah.
And we are going to be filming episode 5 very soon, and who knows how long after that putting it out.
That's right. We broke season 1 up into 2 parts so that we can get more ground out of the show without having to renegotiate contracts.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So that is what I will plug. Lauren, you want to plug something?
I'd like to plug Sam Sleuth, Stereotypical Noir Detective on YouTube. No, I got nothing going on besides that, but that's very exciting.
You do a great job at it.
You're so sweet.
How about you, Bobby? You mentioned your Mistress podcast. Do you want to give that a plug?
Yeah, my Mistress podcast, And What Are You Into, has recently shifted into a weekly MCU rewatch podcast.
Oh, cool.
So,
I'm going to start listening to that.
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know when this is going to come out, but the next one we're going to record is Thor 2. So
you luckies.
But that's been really fun to revisit all the Marvel movies.
Forgive me for being a bad friend, but I finally got in and listened to one of the podcasts, and it was really pleasant. Bobby, you've got the best
Thank you so much.
podcast voice. Like, you're both very good, but you just have such a pleasant, soothing voice. You're really good.
You're the
I'm glad to hear that
voice.
because I cannot listen to podcasts I'm in because I hate my voice so much.
And Heather. No, you're delightful.
You've made my day, Lauren.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Any last words? Oh, I gotta come up with my signature sign off. So any you guys have any last words?
Cowabunga.
Yeah.
All right. And as for me, I've been Sam Bowen. Who have you guys been? You guys say your own names this time.
Oh, I've been Bobby Mattern.
I've been Lauren.
And as I always say, c'est la vie. Goodbye, everybody.